It's like, it wants to go to sleep. Wake up, wake up.
So I'm starting our recording now, and thank you all for being here. I thought we could maybe start off by counting the Omer together. We're counting tonight a special night of the Omer. It's day 36 that we are entering. So 36, of course, is twice high.
36.
Yeah, so that's very special. And we had earlier this week Lag BaOmer, so that was a little uptick, a little highlight. But the blessing is Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kitshanu B'Mitzvotav V'Tzivanu Al Sfirat HaOmer Hayom Shisha Ushloshim Yom. It's 36 days. Shehem Chamisha Shavuot. That is 5 weeks. V'Yom Echad, and 1 day of the Omer. So we're getting there. The 49th day will be Shavuot. And on the evening of May 28th, we are having a Reform Synagogue community-wide Shavuot observance. And I have the wonderful time slot, I think 9:30 to 10:30 that evening, to teach about the theme of Chesed, and particularly Chesed as it manifests in the book of Ruth, which is the text associated with Shavuot. So would love to see some friendly faces there if you can stay up late. I don't know how I'm staying up so late and talking, but apparently I am. So good. Let's see. So we're starting our Midah of sorrow. Let me get there. And hopefully you all have a copy of the handout that I sent it a couple of times, once early and once later on. And I wanted to start off with the poem by Robert Browning, which is on the first page, number 3. I walked a mile with pleasure. She chatted all the way, but left me none the wiser for all she had to say. I walked a mile with sorrow, and ne'er a word said she. But oh, the things I learned from her when sorrow walked with me.
Beautiful.
It is beautiful.
So, we'll see where we get in a conversation about sorrow. There certainly is an idea in this poem and an idea in our literature that sorrow can be an educational process, and yet there's also a strong sense that, I'd rather ignorance is bliss. let me not be wise and not have sorrow. So we have to find that balance point. But before we move deeply into sorrow, let's have our final words about stubbornness. Your phrase, your Kabbalah, and your journaling on the theme of stubbornness.
Yeah, I lost everybody.
Well, I'm trying to think. I have the idea in my mind, but I don't have a good way of articulating it. So let me just stumble through it, okay?
Okay.
For stubbornness, my takeaway is I will be very stubborn in standing up for myself and my people, but I will not be stubborn in being too rigid and refusing to listen to the reasoning of the other.
Good.
That's actually was very articulate and beautiful, Felix. I like that a lot. So stubborn on behalf of your community and open, a little less stubborn in your interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
So maybe it's on the meta level and the micro level that you're approaching. Yes. How you see your own stubbornness. I think that's super helpful.
Good.
I keep referring to be soft as a reed, not hard like a cedar. That's what I keep thinking about.
And how is that working out for you, Hope?
The balance is a little hard because I am stubborn at times, but I try to listen. I'm really working on that one.
So listening is a common theme with both of you.
Listening and being flexible enough to understand their side of the story or their life, you know.
Well,
It's not for me to judge.
I think it relates to, what Matthew started off with, and Amanda is bringing up, it's probably good if we're a little stubborn in terms of our own self-protection right now, resisting this social trend towards opening up too quickly. But, what I hear both of you saying is, we also do need to not be so stuck in our own stubbornness that we can't understand or that we're so judgmental about people who make different decisions.
Mhm.
And it's hard because it feels, the environment that we're in right now feels so potentially life-threatening for many of us that, these are not minor issues, tomato or tomato. It's hard to not be more stubborn when we think that the actions of others may be impacting us and our ability to at any point reconnect with our lives as we had come to know and love them.
Well, the state of New Mexico is mandating masks now, as of today.
So that means you walk out of your house, you have a mask on?
I don't know how they're going to enforce it.
I was just going to say, one of the challenges that, I know, there was that photo of the bar in Tempe that was in the paper this morning, and that, it's all about the enforcement mechanism.
Hello.
Hi, Sheila. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're just, we had our check-in and we noted that you got your knee brace off, which must be wonderful.
Wonderful.
And that Bob was in and out of the hospital, which was probably less than wonderful.
Yeah. Wait a second. I think I lost you. Wait. Did I lose you? Wait a minute.
We can hear you.
Well, then I gotta get back to it. Just a minute.
Okay. All right, Sheila, take a breath.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Liz. I just came home. Let me find you here. Go back. My phone's doing it.
I'm gonna mute you for a minute while she gets herself connected up. Any other comments about stubbornness goals that you have?
I have a comment.
Yes.
So I guess I was thinking that this would, maybe in my wildest dreams, bring us all together like a kumbaya. And instead it's become so politicized that, again, I didn't expect that. So that stubbornness on both sides again is happening, and it's just wild to me.
And I think Amanda, that brings us right to sorrow.
Okay.
Sorrow.
It is just essentially very, very, very sad.
Yes. Because it's such a moment that we could have with all humans on Earth. And maybe some of us will, but.
And again, I think to go back to the distinction that Felix was drawing, I think there is that macro distinction that's going on. I talked to a lot of people throughout the week in the various classes and groups that I'm involved in. And I hear story after story of exceptional kindness, compassion, caring, neighbors taking care of neighbors, helping each other out. So, I think on that individual level, people are coming together. you know, you look at our own synagogue. I don't know if you saw the Ehai today. You know, we've had over $90,000 in donations that people have made just because they understand that the synagogue is struggling right now. And that's, you know, extraordinary generosity that people are evidencing. So, who was it? You know, somebody was, you know, mentioning that, you know, they mentioned to a neighbor that if you go to the store, I could use whatever. And, you know, the next minute it was outside their door.
There's a wonderful article by a Times columnist, and he referred to this as the great inconvenience for someone in socioeconomic group, i.e., I'm working at home, my wife's working at home, the kids are at school at home all the time working, and we have to realize what inconvenience some of us is life-threatening for others. And we have to think of the other, mimicking what Felix said and talked about Wednesday, is you have a cocoon, an area around yourself of protection, but you can't impose that on others whose situations are so completely different. How do you can't be judgmental of certain people unless they intrude on your particular space. You have to give them, you have to respect their decisions, as difficult as they for us.
So there are, for some of us, it's let's say a huge inconvenience, but a mere inconvenience. For some, it's truly threatening. And, you know, there are people for whom this is just an unmitigated financial disastrous nightmare. So all kinds of implications.
All kinds of implications.
So moving on to sorrow. Sorrow, our Mussar teachers remind us, is a part of everyone's life. None of us gets through a life of any length without experiencing some sorrow. And I thought it was very, very fascinating. Let me see what page. I think it was, I have it down on page 10. Yes, so in 12, let me put the reference up for you. 12.1, page 10. I don't know if this jumped off the page to you like it did to me. Well, there's a suggested opening meditation focusing on something that made you sad that happened in the last few days. And it says there's bound to be something, which is a lesson in itself about how prevalent is our experience of sadness. And here's the example. It could be something very minor, like going to the store and finding that they are out of the item you were hoping to buy. I thought that was fantastically prescient of this moment, and for us to read it this week, you know, that how essentially sad that could be when, you know. In fact, I talked to my mom today. My mom is getting all of her groceries delivered, and she loves tomatoes. And she was so excited that her grocery delivery was coming today, and she like allowed herself to eat her last tomato yesterday because she knew more tomatoes were coming today. The grocery order came in, there were no tomatoes.
Oh,
Oh, boy.
She was so crushed. But my mom, being an incredibly wise and resilient person, said, "It's okay. I can live without tomatoes." So
Right.
there you go.
God.
The other thing that our sources focused on was the sorrow that comes from loneliness and the loss of connection. So again, I was just really struck reading all of this material right at this time, And that loneliness and loss of connection is a
Yes.
very deep issue. Sheila, is there something going on with your video?
No, I'm fine now. I'm on my phone because it's a long story. My computer's shut, so I'm on my phone.
Okay, well, we miss seeing your beautiful face.
Oh, thank you.
We have a
I'm
very
here.
nice picture of you.
Yeah, so anyway, that's interesting though, that you can relate to the loneliness and loss of connection because you at least have someone that you're living with. I
Right.
was thinking more so of people who are
Yes.
truly isolated and living alone, but you're a pretty gregarious person, I guess. You used to being out and about and seeing a lot of people.
Yes. You talking to me?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, okay. Yes, that's true. I've had enough of this already. Even if I don't have to go anywhere, I feel as though I'm in prison, and I'd like to know that I can have the ability to go anywhere that I want to go, and we can't do that yet. So I'm feeling closed in.
Yeah. So that's why we have this group that has now met for 3 weeks on Thursdays at 3:30.
Right.
Socialize while distancing.
Right.
And that was specifically designed to address this issue of the sorrow that comes from the loss of connection and the sense of loneliness. And I think it's why Zoom is so effective, because we're just longing to see other people's faces, and it helps to mitigate a little bit of that sadness that comes from not being able to be together.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hi, Sue.
Hey, Sheila.
I wanted to look in the handout at a couple of themes. If you'll turn please to page 4.
Is that the sorrow and joy?
Yes.
Okay.
Chaburah, sorrow and joy.
Oh, I forgot to print. I'm going to go print it now.
Okay.
I'm going to go print it now.
So if you look please on page 4, number C, as with every midah, we find that there are times we want to find the appropriate amount of that midah, even sorrow. So here we are. When is sorrow an appropriate feeling? And can somebody who has it there read that for us? Number C.
I'll go ahead and read it.
Thank you.
While it is theoretically possible to develop an attitude that will totally prevent sadness, the Torah viewpoint is there are times when such feelings are appropriate.
Right.
We have an obligation to cry over the death of another person. Also, we should care enough about potential suffering that we will pray it not come. What is the reason? In order that we utilize those situations as reminders to improve ourselves.
So 2 examples of times when it is appropriate to feel sorrow. I imagine it's kind of a sociopathy if you never feel sorrow. And you know, even if it's not sociopathic, it certainly feels superficial. I don't know if you know anyone in your life. I'm thinking about someone in particular, a family member who is always so positive and so happy, and that it seems, as I said, unrealistic and superficial. You know, I think it's good to be positive. I think for myself personally, it's one of my better attributes, that I tend to be optimistic and have a positive, positivity is my natural response, rather than being the prophet of doom and looking at things in a negative light. And yet somebody for whom, you know, everything is always great and perfect, it's almost becomes incredible.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
which is how the word is constructed. Incredible, not credible.
Exactly, right.
Mhm.
Right, and it doesn't lead to a deep relationship. You know, to have a deep relationship with someone, you need to be able to open your heart and share both the joys and the sorrows.
Mhm.
That's true.
So the author here, Chokhmah Mussar, talks about two particular examples of appropriate times for sadness. Crying over a death and crying over the suffering of others that should motivate us to do something to alleviate that suffering. What are some other situations that come to mind where sorrow, where sadness is appropriate?
Sorrow.
Maybe around this time. Well, at the beginning, it was very challenging for lots of people. And to see the COVID-19 killing so many people throughout the world. So, I mean, I don't know how you describe it as far as sorrow, but
That brings together both of the things that the author talks about, death and suffering.
yeah, suffering, that's a good word.
Yeah, well, so the situation we're in right now is essentially the example of sadness per this author, because
Mhm.
But it's also all the loss of dreams and hopes and pictures in your head of how things are going to be. You know, all these kids graduating who, you know, have given up prom and
Right.
senior breakfasts and, all these parents and kids had all these pictures in their head of how senior year was going to be, whether it's college or high school. And I think, there's so many people who have had to shelve dreams.
No graduations.
Yeah,
They
there's
don't have any graduation ceremonies.
That's right.
none. And I think the pain, I think that's very much sorrow, because it's so painful to give up those dreams and wrap your head around what you're supposed to do about the fact that they're not going to be there.
the thing that's so essentially sad about that too is that those are not dreams that can be forestalled, and those kids can't have their senior prom next January.
Right.
Right.
It's
All
just
right.
it's a real loss. So it's not the death of a person, but it's the death of a dream, a vision that we all we're born, we go to school, we just take for granted that our senior year is going to look a certain way.
It's something that they looked forward to for a long time. I know I have a grandson graduating, and he talked about, we have a senior trip to Disneyland, and then we're doing this and we're doing that, and now nothing.
I feel like crying just when you say that, really.
Yeah. It's very sad. It really is.
It is so sad. One of the things I did this afternoon was my daughter was supposed to have a graduation from her residency program in June, and that just got canceled. And they have there's this website called Kudo Board. I had never heard of it, of course, but you can go to this website and put up like a picture and a testimonial and congratulations. So that was one of my little projects this afternoon, was making a little thing to put up for Sarah for her graduation on the Kudo board. But it was certainly not the vision. And on the other scale, I've got Helena, who is aging out of the preschool at Temple High.
Oh my God.
And for years, I've participated as the rabbi, and they have what they call a moving up ceremony. So we put the chuppah up in the upper bima in the sanctuary. The kids get their little tiny caps and gowns, and they sit and they sing a few songs, and they get a blessing under the chuppah. And you could obviously it's nothing. She doesn't know that she lost that. But, I've been looking forward to being not only there as the rabbi, but as the bubby. And we're going to we're going to create some opportunity to recognize those kids, but it's going to be an individual thing. Yeah, we're going to set the chuppah up in the courtyard and they'll be there, but they'll have to come one at a time without their friends. So yeah, sadness, the loss of the dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So not to be judgmental about sadness. Sadness is real and appropriate. And you know, the author talks about the death of another person. One of the things I try to be really attentive to as a rabbi is people lose pets or animal companions. And, you know, the people are very, very, very connected to the animals that they live with and love. And that can be, I mean, that can be almost to the emotional level of losing a person that you love when you lose a beloved animal. So
It's terrible.
Not to denigrate that either. That, you know, that is a real, true, sad loss.
Very much so. I can vouch for that personally. It's very, very deep loss.
Sure, it is.
I saw Michael shaking your head too.
Yeah, well, I had to put my dog down in January. So, but she was almost 15 years. So, you know, it was sad. But at the same time, I realized that it was the right thing to do. So I felt better about it. And it was a little easier to deal with the sadness, you know, regarding that situation.
So I think essentially what we need to do is just expand the concept of loss. You know, that loss is more than just what is mentioned in this particular reading about losing a loved one. There's a lot of loss. I'm sure that I mean, so many people have lost their jobs. You know, and jobs are so important for us, not only for the income, which is very important, but also for the sense of meaning and purpose and identity that they give to us. And, you know, you lose your job when you're not ready to lose your job. That is also
Yes.
a source of sadness. So, gosh, there was a quote that just came to me in the last week or two. Chris Cleave, I want to say, was the author, said, trouble is like the ocean. It covers 2/3 of the world.
Huh.
Wow. That's heavy.
Yeah, I believe the author is Chris Cleave. It's from a novel called Little Blue. And I, you know, it just, the world we're living in right now made me think of it. Trouble is like the ocean. It covers 2/3 of the world. So in contrast to that, let's look at the next one, which is D. No, I wanted to move on to E, another potential cause of sadness. Okay, so this is connected to this idea of...
Are you on 12:1?
No, right now I'm in my handout.
Oh, thank you. No wonder I couldn't find you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm moving on to page 5 of the handout.
Okay.
And yet another potential cause of sadness. So we talked about the loss of connection and friendship and loneliness. And here that's addressed as well. So would somebody please read E for us?
I can read it.
Thanks.
A lack of friends can cause unhappiness. Even in this area, we have a strong degree of control. You can tell yourself, how awful is it that I do not have close friends? There must be something wrong with me. I can't stand not having close friends. By repeating these types of statements to yourself, you increase your sadness. The sensible thing to do is to make a concerted effort to try to find some people to be friendly with. Don't demand a perfect friend. If you cannot find all your friendship needs with one person, having a number of friends can be beneficial. If, however, you cannot find any friends, you can still tell yourself, it would be much more pleasant to have a friend or two. but I can still tolerate being alone. It is possible to be alone without feeling lonely. Moreover, you have the ability to focus on the benefits of solitude instead of just the negative aspects.
This is also incredibly relevant. I can't believe we're reading this right now at this time. So friendship is a critical value. I'm sure it must be somewhere in the reading. I don't remember precisely where the famous Talmudic statement, O chavruta, O mututa, either friendship or death. Do you remember reading in the material the famous story of Choni, who fell asleep for 75 years? He's the Jewish Rip Van Winkle.
Yeah.
In the Talmud. And when he wakes up, of course, all his friends are gone. And that's his observation, you know, that life is not worth living without friends. You know, the story of creation says, you know, God made the heaven and the earth and the sea and everything that was in it and the trees and the animals. And every day God says, and God saw that it was good, and God saw that it was good, and God saw that it was good. And what's the first thing in the Torah about which God says it's not good? What's the first thing?
Adam. Or Adam alone.
Ding, ding, ding. It is not good for man to be alone. Not good for the human to be alone.
Yep.
Lo tov liot ha'adam, the human, to be alone. We're created to be together in community, which is what makes this moment so hard. So the author does talk about some of the benefits of solitude. I think there are some good things that are coming out of this social isolation and distancing that we're experiencing now. Anybody finding that there's some silver lining, or is it just all negative?
I think
reading more.
appreciation for what we have, what we do have, the little things.
I also think that people are bonding. Like I used to run. Now I sit in my driveway and my neighbors come and we have happy hour. We talk.
Nice.
We get to know each other much better.
Sue, you said you read more?
Yeah. Yeah, we had 13 of our neighbors over the last week for a social distancing happy hour in the backyard. Everyone brought a drink, their own, and because I think people are craving other faces and seeing other people. And our backyard is shady and we have misters and fans. So Craig said, come over. And they all brought their own chair so they could distance and their own drink. And it was fun. Everybody was so happy to see other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Really lovely. They stayed 2 hours.
Lovely. Great.
It was really great. We talked about happy houring outside, and it was lovely. It was a spur of the moment thing, but it really was nice.
So it was a spur of the moment thing. And one of the things that's very different from life 2 months ago is that everybody was available.
Right.
Yes.
You know, in my life, it used to be if I wanted to have dinner with somebody, you know, that had to be planned, 8 or 10 weeks out to find a free night.
Yeah, it was like tomorrow night, if you're not busy, ho, 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 everybody was busy, was free.
Right.
Grab your own drink in a chair and come over. Everybody
Right.
was there, 13 people from our
Nice.
Yeah, it was really great.
So people are connecting more.
Yeah.
Getting to know each other. Felix, as somebody commented on that this afternoon, Felix was at the Socialize While Distancing group, that, people were just chatting and getting to know each other I know for a fact that there were 2 people there who had just a lovely conversation online like this afternoon. I know they have been in the sanctuary on Friday night services at the same time and had no idea who the other one was. And if they hadn't both been home and signed on to socialized while distancing, they still wouldn't know each other. And yet you could just feel coming through the computer the affinity between them and the pleasure of making that connection and talking with each other.
Cool.
So not having friends is a source of sadness. I want to focus on the effort that needs to be involved in making and sustaining friendships. So friendships don't just happen. They take energy, they take effort, and they take a lot of understanding and forgiveness. Note that line, don't demand a perfect friend. And again, that goes back to what we were talking about judgment at the beginning of this conversation. If we're going to be judgmental and get hurt and angry real easily, we're going to find ourselves very alone very fast. And you can't, yes, Owen.
A colleague of mine introduced me to the expression, don't let perfect become the enemy of the good.
Right.
And it really was transformative for me, because there have been times when, when negotiating or whatever, that you need to be able to take a step back to see what's the alternative. And it's life-changing to see that you can't really get perfect. It's not
true.
It's
So
not on the agenda.
Rolling Stones who said you can't always get what you
What
want.
you want.
Right.
Try sometime. You just might find you get what you need.
Yes.
Right.
That is right.
You might have to go to a few different sources to have all of your needs met.
Yes.
I remember talking to one of the partners in a married couple one time, and the person was bemoaning to me the fact that her partner didn't and couldn't meet all of her needs. And I remember trying to explain that it's just an unrealistic expectation to think that one person is going to meet every single need that you have. So, it's okay to have, different friends that you do different things with, who give you different things in your life. But if you're looking for perfection, so Owen, I always liked the way General George Patton expressed that same thought. He said, "A good plan violently executed today is better than a perfect plan next week." The perfect is the enemy of the good.
I can't print this.
Sheila, you having trouble printing?
Yes, very much. Well, because my computer's, I'm just listening.
I see. You're having a lot of challenges tonight. Your computer's not working.
Yes. I'm just getting I'm going back into the kitchen where I was and going to relax and enjoy this.
I know. I can hear and feel how stressed you are. Is there any wine or vodka in the vicinity?
That would work. That would really work.
I'm just, suggesting that.
Well, I may take you up on that.
Yeah. There's no judgment here.
Okay, I'm getting the vodka. And I'll show you the bottle.
I wish you could have. We only had video.
Where is she? Can you see this?
No.
Oh,
Can you see it?
No, you don't.
cannot see. We only see your beautiful photograph.
You don't have the video, but we trust that.
There's no video on here?
No.
On my phone.
Just have your
Start video. Okay, wait a minute.
there you go.
There you are, Sheila. There it is. Go for it. Go for it, Sheila.
Polish vodka. I'm going for it.
Okay, you sit down.
Okay, now you guys keep going. I'm just having a little stop here.
Thank you.
Wait a second. Is that a bottle of Pacheski vodka?
It is. Yes, it is.
holy shit, the guy who used the expression with me, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good, is John Bacheski.
Yep.
Ah,
You can get it. You can get it at Traders. Traders on Camelback.
Wow.
Really weird.
That is not an accident.
No, it's not.
Dude, that's
That's
the secret
weird.
of the world.
So you're Mishpucha now.
I'm Mishpucha. Okay, good. Well, I thought I was anyway.
You are, but even more so.
Okay. Now we're really with L'chaim.
I'm here, Sheila.
I'll join you.
So,
Good.
Elizabeth, could you talk us through a little bit about, for anyone else who has information about this, the physical aspects of sadness and joy? What's going on in our bodies when we feel sadness and joy?
In terms of our brain, the hormones that are released and all of that, I mean, it's a, you know, it's a whole body response. I mean, sorrow is, you wanted me to do sorrow and what was the other one?
Joy.
Well, joy, I mean, and you can correct me also, I think Owen and Felix, you know, too. I mean, joy is, that's when, you know, serotonin can be released, dopamine, all of those good, feel-good hormones are released. You know, sorrow really doesn't necessarily release stress hormones, but it can. It just depends. You know, it's everything's a biophysical response. There's always a physiological response. You know, with joy, you know, they've done so much. There's the Happiness Project. Have any of you ever read that book?
Yes.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I mean,
Rubin?
There's been a lot of research done, more research done on joy than sorrow, I think, in terms of how to experience, you know, your best biochemistry. You know, there's certainly been a heck of a lot of research been done on when sorrow becomes depression, but that's a different topic. And Felix could probably answer that better than I could. But, you know, what the folks at HeartMath, what they are really studying is this idea, and what's talked about so much in this section is how these emotions really affect your heart. So that's what I was taken by when reading this section. So many references to, you know, your heart and feeling from your heart and expressing from your heart. How wonderful is a human heart, you know. So I thought that was, it's on page 3, the top paragraph, talking about heavy hearts and talking about these other things. I mean, you know, you think about your heart, but then there's also what's called the pericardium, which is the plural, the membrane that goes around your heart. And in Chinese medicine, they're 2 separate meridians. And so the pericardium is really where all the electromagnetic energy is coming from your heart. And that, you know, you can have someone walk in the room and you say, boy, that guy has a big heart. And it's true, they can really project that electromagnetic field. You know, it's not an accident. I mean, they knew all these years ago, you know, how many years ago were these things written, you know, in Deuteronomy? That was a while ago. And they knew that even then that, you know, there was something to this. It's not just an organ that's pumping your blood around. So I find that fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. Thank you. Felix, did you want to add anything?
You have to unmute yourself, Felix.
He's muted.
Okay. I'd really like to hear what Elizabeth might say about this. And I really don't know that as much as I should about the biochemical aspects and the brain. I'm more into the, you know, psychological side of all this. But I did hear recently that research has uncovered parts of the heart that actually have brain cells in it.
Yep.
So that
Really?
Yeah.
I was flabbergasted by that the heart actually has a brain-like intelligence to it, as well, of course.
Wow, that's mind-blowing.
Wow.
Elizabeth, have you,
Not only does the heart, but the gut does too.
and the gut, oh, that I didn't hear.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing.
There's a book, I think it's called The New Brain, and it's all about the neurological system within the gut.
I'm just going to pull up this other quote I know I've shared with you guys before, but it's so relevant again. Just give me 1 second.
Guys, I'm getting like notices from people. Why am I getting darker? Just so
I
you
don't
know,
know.
I'm sitting on my porch, and the only light I have will keep coming like strobe. So I haven't turned the light on. So that's why I am fading. I am right here.
Okay. Thanks. We feel comforted.
Yeah, yes.
So it's not that you've gone to the dark side.
Oh, and perhaps
Right.
I have, but we'll just go with it. It's dark around me.
Thank God. Thank
Dark
God.
outside.
Watch out for the snakes.
Thanks.
Oh,
Oh,
Uh,
good to do.
Screen sharing.
I just wanted to share this quote with you here for a second. So we've read this before. I don't know if it was before some of you joined the class, but I'll read it again. So, my heart is weak and unreliable. When I go, it will be my heart. I try to burden it as little as possible. If something is going to have an impact, I direct it elsewhere. My gut, for example, that's what made me think of it, Elizabeth, when you mentioned the gut. Or my lungs, which might seize up for a moment, but have never yet failed to take another breath. Small daily humiliations, these I take, generally speaking, in my liver. Other damages I take in other places. The pancreas I reserve for being struck by all that's been lost. It's true that there is so much and the organ is small, but you would be surprised how much it can take. All I feel is a quick, sharp pain, and then it's over. That's her loss.
wow.
Yeah. Sometimes I imagine my own autopsy. Disappointment in myself, right kidney. Disappointed of others in me, left kidney. Personal failures, kishkis. I don't mean to make it sound like I've made a science of it. It's not that well thought out. I take it where it comes. It's just that I notice certain patterns. When the clots are turned back and the dark falls before I'm ready for this, for reasons I can't explain, I feel it in my wrists. And when I wake up and my fingers are stiff, almost certainly I was dreaming of my childhood. The pain of forgetting, spine. The pain of remembering, spine. To everything a season, to every moment, to every time I've woken only to make the mistake of believing for a moment that there was someone sleeping beside me, a hemorrhoid. Loneliness, there's no organ that can take it all.
Wow.
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 Powerful.
I love that. Just a beautiful, beautiful piece of writing, and very relevant for how we experience all of these different emotions in our bodies. And
Yeah.
I had forgotten how powerful it ends with loneliness and the overwhelming sadness, to bring it back to our topic of the evening, the overwhelming sorrow that can come with loneliness.
Who wrote that, Rabbi?
Nicole Krauss. So that was from another novel. One of my avocations is I like to find these little buried quotes in the novels that I read, and I believe that was from a wonderful novel called The History of Love. It's fiction. It's not like it's some academic study of love.
I read that book too. That's an awesome book.
Yeah, wasn't it great?
Beautiful book.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share with you another thought from. So I'm in the handout. I'll read to you. It's on page 2, number 8. This is from Eat, Pray, Love, which is nonfiction, and Elizabeth Gilbert.
Yes.
A lot of people did not appreciate this book, found it kind of superficial and self-indulgent and annoying, but I liked it a lot.
I did too.
I read it. I did too.
So we're looking at sorrow this week and next, and we're also looking at joy and happiness as the counterpoint to it. So what I like about what Gilbert says here is, and we'll see it elsewhere as well, is this idea that, we have to work a little bit at being happy too. You don't just sit and wait for something to make you happy. In fact, in Dennis Prager's book, Happiness is a Serious Problem, which is a wonderful book that I highly recommend, he says we should be happy unless there's some reason not to be happy, rather than just even existing in a neutral state and waiting for something to come that's going to make us happy. So here's how Elizabeth Gilbert puts it. Happiness is the consequence of personal effort. You fight for it, you strive for it, insist upon it, and sometimes even travel around the world looking for it. That was what you did in that book.
Yeah, that was her thing.
You have to participate relentlessly in the manifestations of your own blessings. Listen to that sentence again. Debbie Rubin said earlier, one of her takeaways from this social isolation is gratitude. You have to participate relentlessly in the manifestations of your own blessings. And once you have achieved a state of happiness, you must never become lax about maintaining it. You must make a mighty effort to keep swimming upward into that happiness forever, to stay afloat on top of it. If you don't, you will leak away your inner contentment. If you're not moving forward, you're going to be moving backward.
That's right.
It's easy enough to pray when you're in distress, but continuing to pray even when your crisis has passed is like a sealing process, helping your soul hold tight to its good attainments. I love her writing.
That's so beautiful.
This is a practice I've come to call diligent joy. Just, I want you to take that phrase away from tonight's VOD into the next 2 weeks of your practice. Diligent joy. The search for contentment is therefore not merely a self-preserving and self-benefiting act, but always a generous gift to the world. So the gift to the world part, Prager addresses that in Happiness is a Serious Problem. He says when you have a bad mood, it's like air pollution. You don't have the permission to pollute everyone else's environment just because you're in a bad mood. He doesn't call it diligent joy, but he says, you have to contain your negativity. You just,
Right.
If you're feeling sad, you're feeling bad. And, I might make an exception here in this moment. We're having a really hard time right now, and every single one of us has crappy moments and crappy days, and that I think we lift each other up by making space to share a little bit of that also. And I think you might have heard me say in the past that one of the things I think about in my job as a rabbi, as a revolving door of people coming into my office with, every kind of woe that you could imagine and woes that you can't imagine, is sometimes my role is just to affirm the suck. Like, yeah, it sucks.
Yep.
Let me give you an objective reality check. Yeah, it sucks. The problem becomes, when we wallow in it and we get stuck there and we get in a place where we can't get out of it. And that's when the sorrow becomes, as somebody alluded to earlier, depression. And I talked to at least 2 people just today, one of whom told me they just started taking what they described as relaxation pills because they couldn't get themselves unstuck from their depression. And another person who also, through this COVID-19 and the social isolation, has become clinically depressed. So it's really no kidding. And in fact, I didn't speak, but I texted with somebody today whose mom spent last night in the hospital with suspected heart palpitations, but really what it came down to was
Anxiety.
the stress of, the endless being alone with no end in sight.
Yeah.
So I just want to affirm the suck and contrast that with one of the texts that is quoted in our reading is from Reb Nachman of Bratslav, who says, "It is a great mitzvah liot tamid basimcha, to always be in joy, to always be happy." And when I was in Israel one time in the Jewish quarter, there was this artistic calligrapher whose work I just absolutely was in love with. And I bought 2 Hebrew sayings that she had illuminated so beautifully. And one of them was that quote. And I got so annoyed by it that I gave it away. Sharona Silverman, God bless her, was very happy to take it. I don't know if it still is living in Marcy Beliak's office. I think it is. If you're in Marcy's office, you can see it. And it's a beautiful piece of art. But I couldn't take that. It's a great mitzvah to always be happy. So I don't know. Did anybody else have a strong reaction to that?
I don't know if you can always be happy.
Yes.
It seems overdetermined.
Of course not.
I think happiness as sort of predetermined by external factors, and joy as being more internally generated. You know, it's pretty sad if we have to always be pulling in different things to make us feel a particular way, and how short-living and fleeting that would be. That would be my feedback.
Yeah, Prager makes the distinction between fun and happiness. So he says, if we're dependent on having fun activities in order to be happy, that's going to become an endless cycle of pursuing happiness to no end, because there's a limit to how much fun one can stand. Some of us have a lower tolerance than others.
I think during this situation,
God sent me Ron Kushner to, help counsel me in how to have fun, because I was definitely lacking, and so that's been I've been having remedial fun over the last
Good for you. Good for him.
3 years of marriage. But some people have more aptitude than others. But so, anybody want to argue with Reb Nachman?
No, I just wanted to make a comment that, in some ways, I do think that we've been in this for how many months? 2 months now, as far as being coked up. So I do think that each of us have to find ways to bring some happiness into our life, or fun, because we have no idea how long this is going to go on. But I think that at one point you just realize that some people can get set in this real depressed way. And so you have to bring yourself out of it. And so you need to recognize that. I thought I was reading somewhere, it stated in our reading something about music, or finding things that just bring you and uplift you. Because I think when you recognize that you're depressed or you're sad or whatever it might be, is at that time you have to make a decision. Am I going to wallow in it, or do I need to bring myself to another level?
Right.
Yeah,
another level just might be something like going for a walk. So you can change your feeling. But one last thing I will say is attitude. It's so important because it gets you through everything. We can't control this situation, we have to live in it, but our attitude toward this situation, or this virus, I should say, or pandemic, is so important. You know, we have to fight every day to, you know, try to make something good of the day.
Beautiful. Michael, do you have the handout there available?
I do, but I'm not following along. I'm a little confused because my screen was going dark, so it's driving me nuts.
Uh-huh.
But
So,
you can refer me to whatever you like.
yeah, can you look at page 3 for us?
Yes.
And if you wouldn't mind reading A, because I think it's stating exactly what you're saying. And then I put up on the screen, I think I know where in the reading you were referring to, and I did want to talk about that, so we can just fast forward there.
Sadness is a choice, A. When researching this book, I asked a prominent Torah scholar who has a zest for life and learning. Sorry, I thought you were stopping me. Let me start over again. When researching this book, I asked a prominent Torah scholar who has a zest for life and learning what he has to say about sadness. His immediate reply was, "The world is so beautiful. How can anyone be sad?" Contrast this to a person I spoke to a few days earlier who had a tendency towards sadness. That person asked, "How can anyone be happy? The world is so full of problems and misfortunes." Two people living in the same city at the same time can live entirely different worlds, although they both have the potential to view the world in the same light.
Exactly.
One's world is beautiful and full of opportunities for growth. The other's is not. Both are healthy and their basic needs met, but their perspective of daily events is vastly different. Ultimately, whether a person will be happy or sad throughout his life is dependent on his attitudes. Since we have the potential for a larger degree of control over our attitudes and thoughts, we have the choice of making ourselves happy or sad.
Wow, that's powerful.
Ridiculous.
Was there more? Should I stop?
No, that was it.
Stop reflecting. Reflect, think.
Yeah, I heard what Sheila said. Sheila, I'm wondering if you want to expand on what touched you about that.
Well, I mean, Bob and I, if we make it, I'm joking, we'll be celebrating our 56th wedding anniversary, May the 23rd.
Oh, happy anniversary.
And I just want to let you know that we never had a fight. That's a joke. That's a joke. But I remember when he first met me, the one thing he said was that what really inspired him was my zest for life. And I just really feel that way. I mean, I always look at the cup half full. And I've been through a lot of shit, believe me, but I still look at the cup half full because there's no other way. I mean, if you can wallow in it, you can wallow in it for your whole life. Why? You know, you're right, Michael, what you said. We live in such a beautiful place. We should really embrace it. That's all I'm saying. That's it, I'm done. I'm drunk. No. Here we go. Not really.
Can I share a quote here?
Please.
Sure.
Actions may not always bring happiness, but there is no happiness without action.
True.
And I think that kind of fit in with this last paragraph here.
So that's as Elizabeth Gilbert put it, diligent joy. You gotta. Good. So, Michael, I think the passage that you were referring to, if we all can look at section 12.1, beginning on page 13. So, page 13 talks about music. Let me just see if I can find that. Yes, at the very top of the page. Do you have experiences of your own of having your heart fill with joy because of music?
Where are you?
I'm at the very top of page 13.
Number
Section
3, that's
12.1. I have
Yes.
it in the chat at the. It's in the italics at the top of the page. Do you have experience of your own of having your heart fill with joy because of music?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
That's one of the reasons I sing in the choir.
Oh, that's so nice.
So lovely.
Double yes.
Ditto.
Interesting, the 2 choir members said yes right away.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. Or even singing in the car. I sing to the music in the car.
I
Just makes
think
me happy.
singing and dancing are very
Yeah.
good.
Yes, so the text, so page 7, I think is my note, is where we talk about dance. Is that right? I thought there was a reference to dancing on that page too. But yeah, definitely dancing can lift your spirits.
Yeah.
Listening to a piece of music that is very stirring. The text referred also to being in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Which that's been a nice thing for me, I would say, because I'm getting to be home a little bit more, and the weather has been so beautiful.
Uh-huh.
I've personally been enjoying a lot of time just sitting on the patio and listening to the birds and enjoying the flowers and just being in that beautiful environment.
I think we're a little more fortunate than other states to have a little more flexibility to get out. So, I think
Now.
it is a little sane, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. We're planning to go mountain biking tomorrow morning. So
Good for you.
I'm really looking forward to that. That's just a great way to be surrounded 360 degrees by the beauty of our environment.
So
And I'm golfing. I'm golfing tomorrow.
Oh yeah, Ron came home from golfing while I was on this call, so I'm anxious to hear about his experience. He played with he's been playing now on Thursdays with Debbie Waitkus. So
Oh, nice.
we're talking about you, honey. How was golf today? Great. He said that in that lying golf voice. That means he shot over 100.
So Rabbi, I found the information on HeartMath, and Felix, you'll find this interesting. So it says most of us have been taught in school that the heart is constantly responding to the orders sent by the brain in the form of neural signals. However, it's not as commonly known that the heart actually sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart.
Wow.
Okay. These heart signals have a significant effect on the brain function, influencing emotional processing, as well as higher cognitive faculties such as attention, perception, memory, and problem solving. In other words, not only does the heart respond to the brain continuously responds to the heart. So they've studied it over 40 years.
Elizabeth, if you get him, last time you were so kind to send us that meditation, could you send us the link where we can, I'd love to capture that information.
Yeah, I'm just on heartmath.com. It's the front page of the science of heart math.
Okay, let me.
I got it on my phone, so I'll send it to myself, and then I'll.
Okay, I'll just put it on my overcrowded notepad here.
I'll send it to you.
Okay, great, thanks. So one other thing in the quotes that I put together on the theme is when you see someone that is sad, there's an obligation to try to console him. This is a fulfillment of the mitzvah of comforting mourners, which includes helping anyone overcome emotional suffering.
Right.
For this reason, even if you do not become sad easily, still try to find ideas beneficial for overcoming sadness. Although you might not need them, others do, and you will be doing an act of kindness by helping them. So it's kind of interesting that one of the ways we lift our own spirit is by helping others. So I think that's another, when we look at strategies for increasing our joy, when we're down, if we can reach out to someone else, it helps us get out of our own negative headspace that we might be. You know, the rabbis asked the question, you know, why does it say in the V'ahavta prayer, you should write these words on your heart? Why doesn't it say write them in your heart? And the answer is because if you have them on your heart, then when your heart opens, they'll fall right in.
Oh,
I think
Very beautiful.
I think that's
yes,
so
that is beautiful.
beautiful. So the words are close to you, but you need to open your own heart for them to really enter into your being. So what are some of the other things, just reviewing from the reading we looked at? Well, we didn't mention Torah and mitzvot, that we're supposed to get joy from studying Torah and from doing mitzvot. Music, dance, nature, breathing is another one that's in the reading, and helping others. What are some other strategies that work for any of you for finding joy?
Music, dancing, walking.
That was it? That was the comprehensive list?
I am really anxious and excited to be able to go outside and walk again.
Yes, so being in nature,
Right.
and walking. Yeah, how's that? What's the status of your knee?
Brace came off. Just she said to me, "Don't do squats." I said, "Don't worry, I won't." I asked her if I could walk in my pool, and she said yes. So that's a good thing. So I'm anxious to do that.
Great. Well, we're so happy for you.
Thank you.
So I think exercise.
Exercising.
Exercise as a general category could be included in there. I don't know about joy. You know, Vicki talked about happiness versus joy. You know, exercise certainly does accelerate those endorphins. I don't know how joyous. I don't know if it's joyous to exercise or if it's joyous, as Sheila is saying, to be able to exercise.
You're right.
Have that option of being able to exercise. See Felix shaking his head. I know that his wife is suffering so mightily from not being able to go to the gym. And it's just the idea that she can't go,
Right.
You know, whether she went or not.
Making a gym out of our house.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're buying or we've bought used gym equipment, and it's difficult to navigate now through the house.
So you have your own obstacle course.
Yeah, I'm exaggerating, of course, but yes, nothing makes Sharon happier than physical exercise.
There you go.
Loves it, yeah.
Good example.
I think we need to be careful, though, distinguishing between happiness and joy.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we need to be very careful about what we're calling joy. To me, joy only comes maybe in two ways. One is with connection to Hashem. That's the main way. The other, though, is the birth of our children.
Absolutely.
That moment is incomparable.
I think also the marriage of our children, not just the birth of our children, to see them grow and become a person you know, and all their feelings and their aspirations and stuff. This thing a woman has, you know, they came out of your body and you don't know how they're going to form and what they're going to believe in, and are they going to be a good person, a bad person, what are they going to be? And, you know, I've made mistakes along the way because I was a single parent, and I always said if things could be better, but I cannot, I have to say that my kids have turned out better than I expected, for all the heartaches that, you know, I've been through and all that stuff. And I'm very grateful, but nobody knows. And I think the joy of watching your children grow up is something that is very, it's joy.
Owen, you wanted to say
Yeah, as you've been, there's a great quote from the Fantastics. With progeny, it's progeny.
Right.
You won't know until the seed is nearly grown just what you've sown.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about joy, and I think that the times when I've experienced that, it's really been the result of things happening simultaneously or integrating. And not that it's always about sailing, it's certainly about gardening, the outcome of that. But it's about the sense of being able to.
And he put himself on mute. He put himself on mute.
No, I didn't. Anyway, I just took myself off. But the idea of integrating different senses of sound and movement and control of the wind, not control the wind, control the sails, that all kind of become encompassing, and it's exhilarating. And that's what I was hesitating about, because I was wondering if joy and exhilaration are the same thing or different things. But if you added other sensorium to that, or circumstances to that, it increases the joy. So you add music to that for me. At the same time, it increases that sense.
Interesting. So, Owen, I put up in the chat box, you know, you talked about gardening. There were some planting and gardening metaphors that emerged in the reading. So
yeah.
I'm hoping maybe you can review those before our next time, because as our resident gardener, I'd like to.
I thought they were very moving. It hit me from the first few words. It was really
all right.
clear.
Well, we're running low on time, and I want to hear what people's takeaways are from tonight. But I definitely want to get to that
myself.
in 2 weeks. So takeaways from tonight. What is it that you heard that touched you that you want to remember?
This is an implication of some of the connection to the body discussion. I'm really anticipating maybe, I'm not sure where it comes in, 12.2 or 12.3, but the connection between sorrow and laziness.
Yeah,
I
we'll
really
get
want to
that
get
next
into
time.
that if we can.
Good. All right, we'll talk about that next time. Who else? I don't want you to leave without reinforcing something that you want to remember.
Well, there's another, can I add while other people are thinking? There is a sorrow tonight for me in also realizing that this is coming to an end, at least in terms of the format that it's in now, because I feel the format is really good, and it's going to be a loss. I understand we're going to be able to continue, I hope, in terms of a little bit of a different format, right? But there is a sorrow in me about this
Yeah,
now.
we've been at this together for a long time.
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
Yes.
But also
We have a bond.
but also a sense of gratitude from where we started and where we are, and hope
Yes.
that it will continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about moving forward next time we get together.
Rabbi, I'm sorry I came in late. Is Beth okay?
I did not hear from Beth where she was tonight. Dale told me she had a conflict. I did not hear from Beth.
Okay.
Michael, do you know anything?
Yeah, I did. She did send me a text, but I was running around. But she said she wasn't up to it tonight, so that's the only reason why she wasn't participating.
All right. Well, I'm
I'll
sure.
check in with her tomorrow.
Yeah, it'd be lovely if anybody wanted to reach out.
Yes.
So if you look in the chat on 12.1, page 15, I wanted to conclude with this song. It's a quote from the Psalms. And I think it relates to what Felix was just saying. Eve duet Hashem b'simcha, serve God with joy. Bo'u lefanav, come before God, bir nana, with song. So it's very hard to sing together on Zoom.
I would say so.
So no, it's a serious challenge. So I'll sing it, and if you can mute yourselves and sing along, or hum along, or mouth the words. But forgive me, I'm a rabbi, not a cantor. But it goes something like this: Idu et Hashem b'simcha, Idu et Hashem b'simcha, Idu et Hashem b'simcha. Oh, lefana bir nana, lefana bir nana. La 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 la. Idu et Hashem b'simcha, Idu et Hashem b'simcha. Oh, lefana bir nana, lefana bir nana. Ya la la ya la la ya la la la. So I wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And if I don't see you at Torah study, maybe I'll see you at Wise Aging, or Socialize While Distancing, or Erev Shavuot, or any other opportunities to get together.
Rabbi, any idea when we're going to be back in the sanctuary, or there's no talk yet?
Oh, there's a lot of talk, but
Okay.
no.
Okay.
There's so many factors. It's a constant thought process, and
Okay.
it's really just hard to think about how to do that in such a way that we can keep everyone safe.
Right. Okay, just asking.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very hard not to know, not to be able to plan.
We hope this too shall pass quickly.
It will pass.
It will pass. It's just a question of when.
All right. Good night.
All right. Good night.
Thank
Night,
you,
everybody.
everyone. Night, everybody.
Wonderful to
Bye.
be